I'm just gonna put, yep, everyone else is on mute except me. Perfect. So I'm about to share my screen with you guys. Here we go. All right. So welcome to Choosing a College During COVID-19, hosted by myself, Siobhan DuPont. Um, this is something that is very, very new to the entire world. This is something that nobody's ever seen before or had to really think about. So, it's not even something that I had to think about a few years ago when I was in college. So, um, like I said, I put this together just to do my best to help you guys out in this difficult time. These are just ideas if I were an incoming college student in during this time, what I might do. So, like the rest of the world, college has changed a bit because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And aside from just wearing a mask everywhere you go, um, just the entire process and experience is a little bit different than it was a year ago. So, you know, we see this in the form of having fewer roommates and less in-person gatherings on campuses. A lot of, or what's really exciting about college for a lot of students is that first year college experience and being able to meet people and go to different events and live on your own outside of your parents' house, but with a new friend or a roommate. So all that from the research that I've done is going to be scaled back a little bit if colleges are having in person and on campus. I went to SUNY New Paltz. I graduated the end of 2018, and there were a lot of international students, and that really made the experience really enriching. It's just cool to be able to study and learn with people who are from an entirely different place, but because of travel bans and travel restrictions and that sort of thing, that's sort of, you know, halted or slowed down as of right now. It is possible that things will sort of pick up speed again, but just in the selection process, something that you'll notice when you get to college. There's more students studying online full time, like you guys. I'm not sure if everybody goes to Kingston High School, but as far as I know, they're entirely online for this year. And while that's a huge adjustment and is probably tricky for you guys right now, from my experience in college, being able to learn online is something that you do have to adjust to. College professors do expect you to be able to manage your time on your own and navigate Blackboard, which is the platform that most colleges use for handing in assignments and getting your information, like your lecture notes and your calendar for assignments when they're due and that sort of thing. So you guys sort of have a leg up, I want to say, for compared to students who didn't have to adjust to online learning. So that's one benefit that I think has come out of you guys being in school online already right now, because whether college was in person fully or not, there still is a heavy online presence that they expect you to be able to maintain and keep on top of. So that is something that you guys are getting a lesson on right now, and that will continue also as an incoming freshman in college. And there's a lot of professors that are being laid off across the country just because of budgeting reasons and, colleges having to scale back a little bit. So that's just a few ways that college is changing, or different ways that college is different from what the norm is. So the first part of the process in selecting a school during a pandemic is to choose some schools that you're really interested in and do thorough research on each one. So when you're looking at your schools, I the way I looked at them is through different categories. So there's safety schools. These are schools that you have a very high chance of getting into, like an 80% or higher chance of getting into. Then there's target schools. So those are schools which you have a 20 to 80% chance of getting in, or your profile is similar to a typical student that they would admit. And that's like grade wise, extracurricular involvement wise, that sort of thing, SAT, ACT score wise. And then there's reach schools. So these are schools where you have a less than 20% chance of acceptance, or a typical student that they would admit has a profile that exceeds yours to a certain extent. So even though these schools may have a very, very very, very low acceptance rate, but if it's a school that you're interested in, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply. Um, you should always apply, even if you're not sure that you might get in or not. And I didn't make these definitions up myself. I got these from a website called collegevine.com, and that's how they broke down the schools, or how they defined it. So this is a tool that I made for a few students that I worked with at the Y. And this is just a chart, basically, that has schools, 3 for each category that I just went over with you guys. And it has a lot of different details about things that you would want to look out for when you're looking at a school. So you want to take into consideration the area of the college. So is it in-state? Is it out-of-state? Is it a school that is rural or suburban, or is it flat in the middle of a city and it's a school in an urban location? Is it how big is the school? Is it a school with 2,000 students or 20,000 students? I remember I visited a school, I think it was called Sage College, and it had like maybe 1,000 or less students. And so it was a very, very small school. As far as admissions, do they take the Common App? Do they take the SUNY app? Do they have their own application? That's something that you need to look for if you're interested in applying. What are their deadlines? Finding those right away and recording them are gonna increase your chances of getting your application in on time, and just being mindful that you do get to apply to the schools that you're interested in. What is their average GPA for a high school student? Like of a student that they would admit, what is that that person's average GPA in high school? What kind of test do they require in order to get in? Is it SAT, ACT, none? And if so, what are those required scores? Taking a look at the school's website, do they even have a program that you might be interested in? That's important to note too, because you can love everything about a school. You can love where it's located, how big it is. But if they don't have anything that you might be remotely interested in studying, it's not worth your time. Is it a public or private school? That is good to know, because private schools, though they typically cost a lot more to attend, they give out a lot of scholarships, whereas public schools are typically a lot cheaper to attend, but there's less scholarship. I won't say there's none, but less scholarship opportunities available. And then just looking at financial aid details, what is the cost of tuition? room and board, what's the average cost after aid. And these are statistics that should be available on every college, most college websites. They usually highlight this information. And what would be the total cost of attendance per year. And then a little bit about student life. Do they have athletics, if that's something that you're interested in? Clubs, sometimes you can read about those on the school's website. Is it co-ed? Is it an all-girls school? Are you interested in visiting? And then dates available for visiting. So this is a tool that I, again, recently made for a few students that are high school seniors that I was working with at the Y. And if anyone's interested, I can make a copy of this and send it to you in a Google Doc for you to fill out on your own, just as a way to organize your information in doing your college search process. And the students that have used it have said that it's been really helpful in just laying out everything about the schools and looking at them side by side. And then down here at the bottom again is safety, target, reach. So how you want to define the schools that you're looking at, where you want to put them. And, you know, this is just I guess, a sample, but you may have more safety school. You may have more than 3, you may have less than 3 of each category. That all depends on you. So in doing your research, once you've, again, learned a little bit about every school that you are thinking about applying to, now you can sort of do some more research about the college itself. So this is just an example. This is my school that I graduated from, SUNY New Paltz. I went on their website just to check it out, and they've got a whole page on doing virtual visits and virtual events. So I just scrolled down, and this was on their page. So you can, a lot of schools are doing virtual tours, so you can take a full look at the campus. You can chat with a counselor, which I thought was really great because you can sort of ask some questions that maybe a student wouldn't have an answer to, or maybe questions that are more specific to the admissions process. And you can also chat with current students, which I thought was really cool and very important for getting an idea of what it's like going to that school, because, you know, faculty and a counselor will tell you one thing, but a student, you can really get an idea of, or current student, I should say, you can really get an idea or feel for what it's like being a student there. This is a screenshot from Stony Brook. They also have a virtual tour, so this is what it would look like, and this is also pretty much what the SUNY New Paltz one looked like. But they have a little person here that talks to you during the virtual tour, which is, you know, I guess pretty cool. It's never gonna fully substitute an in-person tour where you're walking around, but you know, they're doing their best, again, like we all are trying to do in this time where we're separated from each other. Just want to pause really quick and see if anyone has any questions so far. Feel free to take off your mic and just ask away. If not, we'll keep going. All right, we'll keep going. Let's see, go back. Okay, so there's virtual visits, and the reason I made this into 2 separate slides is because with the virtual visit, you'll have the chance to talk to people that are working at the school and who go to the school. And with the virtual tour, you'll sort of just get a feel for the campus itself. And on your virtual visit, this is just a handful of questions, but on your virtual visit, you want to ask all the questions that you're curious about, or maybe that you don't even, you know you should ask. So these are a few questions that I found from a website, and I put the link at the bottom, but important ones that I remember asking in doing the college search process. So how diverse is this campus? If diversity is important to you, it was important to me. But how diverse is this campus? You know, you really do get an enriching college experience when you can learn from others that maybe didn't grow up the same place you did or don't look like you. Diversity in a campus is a really big component to like a well-rounded college experience. What are the typical class sizes of my intended major? So that for me was an important question because I knew what kind of learner I was. So if you're somebody who really benefits from having one-on-one time with like a professor, like if you raise your hand in class and you want to be able to ask your question, that's something that is going to depend on your class size. If you are in a class with like 200 people, you don't really get that you don't usually get that opportunity to like ask your questions one-on-one. And again, with everything being remote, that's a little bit different, but um, I have a feeling that like introductory classes, English 101 or Math 101, that sort of thing, that they are breaking them up into smaller Zoom classes just for learning purposes. Um, so that was something that was important to me. I really didn't want to be in every single class that I went to, just like one of 200 students. And I like the smaller class sizes, so that was a factor in choosing the school that I went to. Um, Knowing when you have to declare a major is also important. Um, Usually it's at the end of your second year, but that is important to ask depending on the school that you go to. Do you have a learning community or other freshman learning experiences? Um, you really want to know how does the school get its freshman students like acclimated to learning? What kind of services and supports do they offer so that you can have the best learning experience possible and also be set up for success in your sophomore, junior, and senior year? And a lot of that is um, a lot of those good healthy habits that you make are ones that you create in your first year. What percentage of freshmen return for the sophomore year? So what is their retention rate? And this varies school to school, but you don't want to go to a school where only 30% of the students come back after their first year. That's sort of a not good indicator. Do you have a writing center? Um, the school that I went to had a writing center. I didn't necessarily use it, but I felt good knowing that it was there. And in college, you do, depending on your major, but at least in your first year, you do a significant amount of writing, and that's not everybody's strong suit. And that's also a huge adjustment from high school, where you're kind of, the expectation is just lower than it is in college. So having a writing center is a really, really good tool to utilize and know that it's there. Um, what tutoring services do you have? Do you have an orientation program for freshmen or transfer students? What kind of learning disability services do you offer? Um, and then just thinking a little bit ahead, what percentage of students get internships, or are there internship services available at the school? Um, are there mental health services available? And I'm just waiting for that thing to move out of the way so I can read my last question. Oops. And can freshmen bring a car to campus? So again, because we're in COVID right now, it's a little bit different in campus living. But assuming that things may return a little bit more in person, these are things that you want to think about when you're choosing a school. Um, the next step or a next step would be connecting with professors and students. So like I mentioned in that virtual visit, contact the admissions about speaking with current professors or students. So this can happen over the phone, it can happen via Zoom, or even just emailing a professor and saying, hi, my name is Siobhan. I'm a Kingston High School senior and I'm interested in the sociology department. can you tell me a little bit about, what it's like being a student, or what kind of, can you tell me a little bit about the sociology program, or share some information for a prospective student, that sort of thing, if that's the best that the school can give you from a distance without meeting in person. It's at least a start. But as I showed you guys before, schools are making a little bit of an effort for you to be able to talk with counselors and students so you can really get a feel for the vibe of the school and whether you might like it or not. And these are just some questions to ask for current students if you get the opportunity to. One thing you may want to ask them is, why did you decide to attend this school? If you could change anything about the school, what would it be? What do you like most about it? What do you like the least about it? And how do students succeed on your campus? Again, this is, we're in a pandemic, so not everybody's on campus, and campus life is a lot different than what it normally would be. But getting this information from someone who's been there for a year or two could be really helpful for you in making your decision on whether or not you want to go to this school for the next 4 years. Another way of getting an idea of what a school would be like is following their social media, where you can see different things that they post with their students, or you can see different things happening on campus. So these were just 3 random schools, or I'm going to show you 3 random schools from where I live, in Kingston, that I just thought, just wanted to see what their social media looked like. So this is SUNY Oneonta. It's about, I believe, a little over an hour and a half away from Kingston. And their Instagram is at SUNY Oneonta. This is Siena College, which is 10 minutes from Albany. This is their Instagram feed, and it's at Siena College. And like you can see what their campus looks like. It looks beautiful. They have pictures of students and different notifications that they share. So this is just a way for you to gather info that you won't get by just going on their website. And this is UAlbany's. So those are just 3 examples of different schools, and most colleges will have an Instagram page, and I recommend Instagram over like Twitter or something, because I think you'll just be able to get a better view if you look them up on Instagram. When you're doing your selection process, you want to research the major or the major program at a school you might be considering. So like I said, I went to SUNY New Paltz, and sociology was like their 3rd most popular major or something like that. It was in the top 10, but that school is really well known for teaching. So if you're thinking about being a teacher, you want to go to a school where the school is well recognized for that program, or at least, have some sort of notability or notoriety for the program that you're interested in. You don't want to pick a school that has a super tiny program that you might be interested in, because that could potentially just limit your opportunities. So you want to just do your research before you make a selection. And also consider your financial aid opportunities for each school. Once you get through the application process itself and you have submitted your FAFSA and everything, you really do want to consider the financial aspect of it, because debt is a real thing. And even though it seems really far away from when you're entering college to when you're graduating, you don't want to be bogged down with a ton of debt. So that's something to always consider. And also just considering or accepting that, your first year may be hybrid, meaning like half online, half in person. Do you want to pay $50,000 a year for that at one school when you could pay maybe 10 or 15 or less than that, doing the same thing and getting the same gen ed requirements somewhere else? So I did put a slide in here, and I'm not trying to push community college or anything on anyone at all. But community college is a great resource because you can get your gen ed requirements done. You can get your English, your math, psychology, all those classes that they have you take your first year, no matter what school you go to, you can get them done for a lot at such a lower cost than you would at like a private school. And because we're in a pandemic and traveling and dorming and just everything about life is a little different right now, it's not a bad idea to um, consider community college as like a fallback or a backup for your first year or your first semester, just to save yourself a little bit of money, because all colleges have had to shift the way they're doing learning and teaching. So community college is something that could just be a resource, a back
I don't hear anything.
to that, and all those different things. There's just one reason to maybe do a little bit of research on community college or different community colleges within the area of a school that you would really want to go to, because a lot of community colleges have what's called transfer agreements. So um, students that complete their first 2 years at a community college um, have like automatic acceptance at different schools. So like I know SUNY Ulster has one with SUNY New Paltz, and I believe Hudson Valley Community College has one with SUNY Albany. So it's just something to not totally throw away. And like I said, I'm not trying to push it on anyone, but I'm just putting it out there as something to consider and look into. And one thing that could be really helpful in this process is making a pros and cons list for each school. So this was just a sample one. I didn't write this, but this person made their pros and cons list for everything that they liked about the school. So a convenient location is at the top here and at the bottom here, like 6 times. Um, Location was really important to this person. What else do they have? Clean and new. Their cons were that the school could be potentially more expensive, a small kitchen for a lot of students, and that sort of thing. So just really writing everything down that you like and don't like about what you can gather about a school just from doing your research online is helpful in this process, and then comparing them side by side. And this is just how you would make your own. So literally put the name of the school, and I would recommend doing this for each school, and then writing out the pros and cons what you like and what you don't like about what you've seen from the website, maybe from what you've spoken with a counselor or current student about. And lastly, paying attention to deadlines. So that's one of the really, really important parts of the college application and selection process, is knowing your deadlines and sticking to them. So there's an early college application deadline. This I personally don't recommend to anyone, early action or early decision, because these are binding contracts. So what early action or early decision means when you apply for them, number one, you have to get your application in significantly earlier than all other students. But secondly, what early action or early decision does is it binds you to that school if you get selected. So I personally, I didn't do this, and I wouldn't recommend doing it, but it's still something that's out there, so you should know what it is. And early action is for students who have their heart, their mind, their everything set on going to that school. And if they get in, they are okay with not considering any other school. So there's a set of deadlines for early action, early decision students. There's regular deadlines or regular college application deadlines. If you're a transfer student, transferring and enrolling admissions deadlines, and then supplemental material deadlines. So supplemental material could be, and this is again specific to whatever college you're applying to. Let's say you choose a music school or something that's known for the arts. They may ask you to submit a portfolio or sample, or maybe a school will ask you to submit a writing sample, something like that. That is a deadline that you should be looking out for, and just knowing what you need to submit on time and when you have to get it in. And I believe that is all I had for that's all I had for tips on choosing a college during COVID-19. And this is my email, siobhan@KingstonYMCAFarmProject.org. If any of you guys have any questions, let me just find my way back to Zoom and then turn off my share screen. Okay, here we go. Let's see, stop share. Okay, you guys are still there, great. That's all I have for the tips on, just sorting out info about college and things to consider when you're selecting one during this pandemic. I'm happy to share this slide just for you guys to, if you want to look over it or share it with someone, another high school senior. I'm happy to send that to anyone. Just you can drop your email in the chat. But I do want to open up the floor for any questions. Like I said, this isn't something that I've ever gone through choosing in college during COVID, but I do know a little bit about the college process and application process. So if you guys have any questions that you want to ask, feel free. But I do want to thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope that it was somewhat helpful to you all. Any questions, anyone?
Not for me, no.
Okay. I see a few emails, so thank you guys so much for that, and I'm going to send this to you guys. I am doing another workshop this Thursday on the Common app, so if that's something that you guys want more info on, it's the same meeting ID, same time, 3:30, and we'll just go, section by section, and give you a preview on the Common app. But I see people signing off, and if nobody has any questions, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I wish you guys all the best success in choosing your college and in the rest of your senior year. I know it's challenging with everything that we're going through, but you guys are incredibly resilient and smarter than you probably think you are, and you're going to succeed in college, especially having survived a pandemic and survived school in a pandemic. So, give yourself some credit and be excited for the future, because thank you and take care.